Wanted to read this. Came from Matt Riley, who has done those interviews on the unit we had back on the show last week, and another really good call. And one of the things he mentioned, in addition to the fact that retail dealers are selling back some of the product they're buying, and it's being melted down to fill industrial demand. He also says in the last 3 days, a large wholesaler has increased premiums on generic silver bars from 10 cents to 50 cents. Hasn't been that high in at least 9 months. So, any comment on either of those two? The fact that we're seeing some product melted to meet industrial demand, and also that we now have a report of a wholesaler premium increase, and anything that you could add in terms of what you've seen to that.
Yeah, I have seen premiums on bars go higher. That is true. I can't speak to the melting down of retail products to meet industrial demand. I haven't heard that. Ultimately, wouldn't surprise me. When you see things like China being the second largest producer of silver in the world and has now shifted to a net importer. They were always exporting silver largely because of their byproduct availability. They had so much in terms of their smelting and the byproduct of other metals that they had the ability to export. They're now net importers. You put that in context with what Vince was talking about on them flying around to the Latin American companies buying all their doré and their silver concentrate at a much higher price in the West and refining it back home. These are things that will happen. You can see that supply is becoming much more difficult. And the reason it will catch everyone by surprise, Chris, is because this is all being done in a way that people don't see. If we have to be melting things down to appease industrial demand, if the Chinese, who were net exporters, are now net importers as the second largest producer in the world, if they're going around and buying unrefined silver, none of this ends up on the TV screen. None of this ends up on people's radar. God bless guys like you and Vince who help bring this all, to the public, the small subsection of America that's paying attention. But this is why one of these days you wake up and it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new reality. Prices are far higher because the industrial demand is far greater than would be the investment demand in what represents a very small cross section of America. Now, maybe something happens over the next several months leading up to the election. And I hope not, but I have a hard time believing something won't that will wake people up in a way to where they maybe look to silver. And you reignite the investment demand in this country, and well, maybe all bets are off. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, to your question, yes, I'm seeing premiums go up on bars. Not so much on the sovereign mint coins yet, but the bars have gone up a bit. I have no proof to say that industrials are buying and melting down bars. I'm not sure where he heard that. I haven't seen it. But I do think all of these things put in context with what Vince has been talking about, what the Chinese are doing net importing, not exporting, and buying up unrefined silver, because part of the reason they buy up all the concentrate unrefined silver, it allows them to accumulate tremendous amounts, even if the cost is uneconomical in relation to what the market bears. They don't care because they know where it's going, and they refine it back at home, pulling it out of a supply source that doesn't affect the price. It's not coming off of an exchange, and so no one knows what it's. There is no effect on the ultimate price yet. So yeah, I think these are the crumbs, if you will, that are laid at our feet. And either you open your eyes and believe it or you don't. That's all there is to it. You can lead a horse to water. As far as I'm concerned, these types of crumbs are very, very, very relevant. And very important because the people at that level are making moves long before it filters on down to Joe and Jane six pack who are buying silver eagles or silver rounds and thinking that all is fine. There's tremendous supply, premiums are low. It's been that way for 6 months, and you get the little boy who cries wolf over here, me, saying that will end. Well, it's easy for people to poo-poo that and dismiss it as a guy who sells metal, but I'm telling you, as God is my witness, these are the kind of things that I've seen over the last 4 years that have led me to making the calls that I have on things like the bricks, because you can see them. if you pay attention. And these things don't happen in a vacuum. If the Chinese are the second largest producers of silver in the world and have been net exporters, what is the significance of them now not exporting any, becoming net importers and flying around the world and buying up unrefined silver at twice the cost of what everyone else will pay? What are those consequences? What is the consequence of them having the price in Shanghai for silver $4 higher than the West, attracting arbitrage? What are all the ramifications of all this? Or do you just think it's in a vacuum and it doesn't matter? You put all of these things together and take a step back and say, I bet they think the prices could go to the moon, along with the Indians who have bought 700 million ounces of silver in the last 3 years, which doesn't even account the silver that they bought from the UAE or somewhere in that neighborhood. They look at silver as being wholly important, far more important than we do. And you know, you will be looked at as someone who saw things very, very clearly, Chris, just a lot more premature than the people in this country have seen it. But I assure you that the people around the world who are doing these things, like the central bankers in China and India, are much more aligned with the way that you see the world than the way that most people see the world. And that's the hard part for guys like you and I to rationalize and justify, because sometimes you start to question your own sanity. But I'll tell you, you look at these crumbs, these are not insignificant. In fact, these are really big, in my opinion, if you try and put them together and see where it ultimately ends up.
All righty. And for anyone who did not see that clip about Matt Riley talking about the bars being melted down, you can go here on the video tab